Hello, my name is Geogen and welcome back to World of Tanks. We're on the 9.10 test server and we're looking at these new behemoths of steel in the Japanese tech trade. This, of course, I'm referring to is the heavy branch. And they are very novel looking vehicles. The tiers 2 to 4 are the exception, of course. They are very generic looking Japanese mediums and heavies apparently, but they look very much like the Japanese mediums that are already in the game at tiers 2 to 4 respectively. The lower tiers I haven't played because no one really wants to play lower tiers in the test server environment. So I'll have to try them out at a later time. Anyway, the main focus of the video will be an overview of these vehicles, starting from tier 5 up to tier 10. So to begin with, we have the OI Experimental, which as you can see is a very big vehicle indeed. We just place this vehicle next to the Tiger, the Japanese Tiger, which is very similar to the original Tiger. There you go, there is the difference in size. So here's the Tiger and here's the OI. You can see the Tiger is dwarfed in comparison. The OI has 75mm of hull armor, so it is comparable to the KV-1. This is the tier 5 OI, by the way, because there is also a tier 6 OI. And this is even bigger than the predecessor and has thicker frontal armor, 150mm. So it is a nice step up in terms of the raw numbers. The tier 7 is the ONI, which changes the layout of the sloped armor. As you can see, it changes from a very nice angle, on this plate anyway, not this plate up here, to a worse angle, but it is 25mm thicker. It also gets a very nice turret, 200mm thick at the front. I believe it's associated here and perhaps to the sides. However, I cannot confirm that because I can't get Tank Inspector working with this client. Perhaps at a later date I'll be able to show you the armor models in more detail. The side armor of the turret is 150 and the rear is also 150. So the turret it gets is quite nice, which again is a good improvement over the turret armor of the OI and the OI Experimental, although the OI has a pretty nice turret anyway. The next vehicle is the OHO, which is an improvement in many ways over the ONI. The ONI has a 200mm of turret armor at the front, as I say, and 150 on the sides, whereas on the OHO it's 200 all round. The hull armor is also improved from 175 on the ONI to 200 on the OHO at the front. Again, this is the raw numbers. I won't be able to tell you what the lower plate is, for example, or this plate up here, or the two turrets, which are inevitably not 200mm thick. The side armor is also improved from 70mm to 105, which is a nice bonus, meaning you can side scrape more easily. Now the OHO is very big, as you can see, as is the ONI. The ONI is even taller than the OHO. And then we move on to the real biggest machines in the game, which are the Type 4 and the Type 5. Now the Type 4, as you can see, has a very nice looking, it's very nice looking at the front. The upper glacis is very well angled indeed. The lower plate is a bit of a disappointment in comparison. The upper hull armor here isn't flat completely. There is a slight gradient to it, but it is, for all intents and purposes, pretty flat in comparison to other vehicles such as the E75. The thing I notice about this is there is more armor towards the right hand side of the vehicle compared to the left, and I cannot confirm this, but I may well imagine this is a weak spot. Although no one actually struck me here directly in the front when I was playing. They did, however, strike on top. A HE round from a T-49 did quite a substantial amount of damage, so that may well be a weak spot. Now, you can see the front armour looks quite nice indeed. It has 250mm of hull armour from the front. Again, the lower plate will probably be different to the upper glacis and this flatter upper glacis here. I cannot confirm that. Maybe in the future I'll be able to. The side is 140, which is an improvement again over the OHO. And the rear is 250mm thick, but it's pretty flat. But with some angling, you may well be able to bounce certain shells. And the Type 5 is an improvement over the Type 4 in several ways, but not hugely distinguishing factors compared to the other vehicles. You can see the front armour has changed from this uneven armour at the front to a perfectly straight bit of armour. The gun is the same. The turret armour has improved by 10mm. I forgot to mention the turret armour of these are very nice. They're very much like an E100. 250mm. They are quite flat, again much like an E100, so you will have to potentially angle the front to avoid penetrations. The side and rear armour of the turret is 200mm on the Tier 9, and on the Tier 10 it is slightly improved on the sides to 210, the rear is the same at 200. I've also noticed the turret traverse. Although the numbers are the same, for the Tier 9 and 10 of 18 degrees a second, I've noticed that I think the Tier 10 may rotate slightly faster. Again, I cannot confirm it, it just felt like it was slightly faster when I was playing. The top speed of the vehicle also changes from 20 km at Tier 9 to 25 at Tier 10, which 5 km at the end of the day isn't going to make a huge difference, but it will be easier to play. Now, my main gripe with these vehicles at all tiers from Tier 5 up to Tier 10 is the fact that they have poor side armour, but less so at Tier 10 and 9, and 8 to some extent, but from Tier 5 to 7 the side armour will let you down quite a lot. If you side scrape against Tier 5 guns in the Tier 5 OI experimental, you may well be able to bounce certain shots. However, if you over angle, then they're going to go straight through you, and also look at how flat that armour is. So it's going to go straight in, nice easy penetrations with TD guns as well as most types of weapons. The Oni is also much like its OI and OI experimental predecessors in terms of its poor side armour. The profile of the Oni is huge. You can see the turret armour may well be thick, at 200mm in the front and 150 at the sides and rear. The side profile of 70mm is bad, very bad, and I've also been penetrated into the hull through the tracks at this kind of angle, which is horrible. As in, they've shot the front drive wheel and penetrated the track, and it's not very effective. This thing will be eaten very quickly by Tier 9 guns if you give them an opportunity to shoot at your side and if you poorly angled. But then again, people are also firing a lot of gold on the server because, you know, they have a lot of money, and no one gives a damn about trying to play fair, because why would you if you have heat ammunition with 330 pen and, you know, those Soviet Tier 8 to Tier 10 mediums, as opposed to your 201 to 258 pen, you know. I don't know, people like to use their gold. Anyway, the guns on these tanks are interesting because from what I can tell, there are a mix of from 75mm to down here. So if we put this gun on, which you might have to start with, that's a medium tank gun. I recognise that from the Chi-Nu and the Chi-Nu Kai. Anyway, so from 75mm up to 140 on the tier 10 and tier 9. And also you get these very bizarre guns at tier 5, this 12cm gun, which is a howitzer, essentially. If we look at the stats of this gun, just very quickly, 60 penetration with armor piercing, 360 average damage, 140 with the high explosive anti-tank heat, and the same damage, and again 60 penetration and 440 average damage with HE. So basically this gun is telling you use HE, because there's no point of having the same penetration of 60mm for AP and HE. Anyway, so a lot of players may well like the derp nature of these tanks, and the playstyle may well be effective for them. I'll have to give it more testing. But the guns I've been using thus far are generally the 10cm guns, the ones with a high rate of fire, lower damage, but okay penetration. So on the tier 5 for instance, we've got this tier 6 gun, the 10cm cannon type 14, 105 in caliber, 6 rounds a minute, 6.19, 130 penetration, which is okay. It's better than that of the KV-1, which has, I believe, 120 with the standard rounds. And it does 300 damage, which is good. It's very nice. But the penetration means nothing if you can't hit your target, and with 0.41 accuracy, you may well just miss. The aim time is between manageable and terrible, so 2.6 is you're going to have to deal with it, but with a good crew you may well do fine. So if we look at a derp gun now on the OI for instance, here it is mounted, the 15cm howitzer type 96, 150mm in caliber, near enough, 2.4 rounds a minute, very slow, 121 penetration with standard AP, 700 average damage, or 150 pen with heat, 700 damage, or 75 penetration with high explosive, and 910 average damage. Now, that is much like a KV-2. If I brought up the KV-2 stats and compared them, they'd be very similar. So let's do that very quickly. So here we go with the two guns. The one on the left is the OI's gun, and the one on the right is the KV-2's gun. Very similar caliber, very similar rate of fire. The M10 gun on the KV-2 has a 0.1 rate of fire more. It has very similar penetration in terms of its armor piercing, 110, 121. Has better HE on the KV-2, does the same amount of damage, but the Japanese gun has slightly better accuracy of 0.58 as compared to 0.6, which is negligible at the end of the day, and a 0.3 better aim time, so you may well do better there. And then the weight is irrelevant. So that is a brief comparison of those two vehicles. I will have to play more of these vehicles. If you want to see some gameplay of these vehicles now, I'd recommend having a look at Aging Jedi's channel, or Oak_EU, or Oak simply, and he has recently uploaded a game of the OI with the derp gun I was just talking about, so I would recommend going to have a look at his channel. But I will be uploading some gameplay of these vehicles in due course. So I hope you enjoyed this very quick overview. I did miss out some things, but this is supposed to be quite quick and concise. So I will be back with more Japanese heavy tank information. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please consider giving it a like down below, and perhaps subscribe if you did enjoy it. That'd be brilliant. As always, I've been Geogen, this has been World of Tanks on the test server 9.10, and I'll see you chaps and chapettes in the next one.